Okay guys, tonight we're going to start with the tail wheel assembly. There's a lot of little set screws on this assembly. I want to use some blue Loctite. If you don't have Loctite and you're going to go out and get it right now, get a small thing of red also for when we do the motor. These tiny set screws, you only need a drop. They're real small. Make sure you tighten these good. Some guys like to file a flat spot in this tail wheel assembly so that it doesn't spin. There is a way to do that. It's very easy. You just remove the top piece here. Show you real close. Remove this piece. Put a small flat spot in the top of the wire. Put that back on. Make sure it allows for proper alignment of the two pieces. You want those straight. Again, a little bit of Loctite. I actually don't file a spot on there because I prefer for the tail wheel to spin a little bit if there's an impact on it or a rough landing. When they don't spin, sometimes it'll remove the screw from the bottom of the rudder, and then you have to glue that back in. So I would much rather have it move a little bit and have to check it in between flights to make sure it's straight. I've just come accustomed to doing that. Okay, now when we mount this, we're going to make sure it's real important that your pivot point is right in the middle where the fuselage and the rudder meet up. So you have to think about it. You know, you want your rudder to swing effortlessly. There's one tiny, tiny screw in your kit. That one goes through the tiller, and you're just going to mount it with that one screw. You might think it won't fit through that slot. It will. Just use a little persistence. There are also two self-tapping screws that we're going to use for the carbon fiber piece. Now, I like to put a dot of thick or medium CA on my self-tapping screws. Alright, be careful if you're going to use a screwdriver with a handle that big. You can easily break off the head of the screw. Actually, I'll probably use this one. Something like this is probably more appropriate. Okay, so a little bit of glue, the tip of those self-tappers. We'll line up our tail wheel assembly. Take your self-tapping screw. You can actually start it by just pressing a little bit. The wood is soft enough for it to sit there. Your screwdriver and start it. Now, I like to stop, take a look at it, make sure it's right where I want it. In this case, I think we're good. So I'm going to tighten that one screw down. Now the other screw, put a little thick CA on the tip of it. wood is really soft back here, so you don't need to drill a pilot hole. On the contrary, you're better off not. Okay. Now, just center this. I've spun the wheel out of the way here so that I can put the screw in. Spin that out of the way. Again, little drop, thick CA on the head of the screw. Just a dab. You want to center that, get it right in the middle of your rudder, tighten it down. Snug that up. That's it. You can see there's no issues. Moves nice and free. Okay. Again, our small Allen wrench. Now that we've got this wheel lined up properly, I'm going to really snug these down. All the set screws that we earlier put a little Loctite on. Okay, now we're going to assemble our 4016T 500 torque motor. Comes like this. You can configure it in one of two ways. For different models, you would use a collet adapter. And your X mount can go on this side. We prefer to not use the collet adapter. We put the X mount on this side, and we use a solid mount adapter that will bolt to this side, and that will be the proper configuration for this aircraft. So, okay. Now, I locate this collet adapter. And this is going to go on the shaft that protrudes from the motor. I like to put a little red Loctite on this stuff. Now keep in mind, you can use blue Loctite, but the heat from the motor might loosen it up. So you're going to want to keep an eye on it. So do just a drop of Loctite on that. You're going to fit your collet to the flat spot. You'll see there's a flat spot on that shaft. Okay? You want to make sure you set that to the flat spot. Tighten that down, good and tight. Use a paper towel to wipe off the excess. Okay. Now we're going to install our X mount. There's a tapered side for the holes and a flat side. Flat side's towards the motor. Your 4 small, tapered, recessed screws. We're going to put a dab of red Loctite on each one. These really need red Loctite, so there's a good amount of heat at the motor. If you ever have to remove these later and they give you trouble, you can actually just take a lighter, regular cigarette lighter, and you can just hold it to it for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and that amount of heat will soften it up enough to remove. Or a heat gun. Either or, but the heat gun tends to spread the heat a little more than a direct, quick flame. Okay, you tighten these down. You just want to snug all four of them. First, you know, they're kind of loose. You can see. And you snug them down. That way, the plate sits evenly and doesn't rub anything. When you install this X-mount, snug your screws down. Before tightening them all the way, take a look at it and check your spacing around this collet to the X-mount. You want to have a nice even space all the way around, and you want to see daylight all the way around that gap in between this spacer that spins and the X-mount. If it looks like it's rubbing on one side, remove your screws, spin it one notch, or one bolt hole, tighten it back down and check it again. There will be an area that's a little better than the others, so just make sure you find the one that's the best position. Okay. Now, then we'll tighten those down in a star pattern. I like to use a screwdriver with a real handle for something like this, because when I'm done, it's not going to come loose. Just like putting a wheel on a car. You want to jump around. Okay? So those are tight. I've got nice spacing. My collet's on. Red Loctite. Alright. Got our prop adapter. Okay? Same thing. Now we've got 4 Allen head screws. Remove the knot. Install the 4 screws in your prop adapter. Little dot of red Loctite on this one also. That's it. Just a dab. Okay, again, like anything that we're going to tighten down, we're going to tighten it down in a star pattern. Snug it first to make sure it sits flush on the motor. And then we go back over. Tighten them up. Don't over tighten them. You want to know that they're not going to come loose. Okay? That's the assembly of your 4016T torque revolution motor. Now, going to install our motor with the 4 supplied black Allen bolts. Okay. There are 4 washers that fit these appropriately. And on these, we're just going to use a little blue Loctite. There is quite a bit of vibration, so again, just a dab of the blue stuff, nothing crazy. That's actually a little too much. So the amount I put on there, I'll use for 2 of them. Okay. Alright. Motor. Start with 1. And get the rest of them started. Again, just like our prop mount and our X adapter, we're going to want to tighten these down in an X formation, corner to corner, so you know it sits flush. It's very important with the thrust angle. Okay, I buy these straps. They come in a roll at Home Depot. They're a Velcro brand. I find that they hold batteries, even 6-cell batteries, really well. You can double them up, make them longer. I use these for my speed controllers. And you can find some generic foam or even the type of foam that comes with your receivers to wrap around them for safety. I like to put a little piece of foam between the speed controller and the motor box. Not necessary. I just like to do it. Okay, this stuff that I purchased actually has a double-sided adhesive on it. I use this to take some of the vibration out of the mounting area. You're going to want to run your wires up and into the fuselage. Find an appropriate spot to strap your speed controller. These straps are nice because they have a little hole which you can feed the strap through. I like to secure my speed controller right there in the airflow and use 2 straps. I'll put another one on it. Route all your wires so they don't chafe. It's another thing. If you have a wire that rubs on a piece of wood, I'll tend to wrap some sort of insulation around it. Usually I'll use one of these straps and I'll just wrap it around the wires and maybe glue it to the wood. You're going to want to take your wires, tie them up and out of the way. Sometimes what I will do is Try to keep the soldered connections in the airflow. They tend to generate a little heat there. If you fly it real hard, you like all that wiring to be cooled, which I do. So you can secure your wires like that. I'll leave a little bend sometimes so that the wires are relaxed. As long as the cowl doesn't rub on that wire, you're fine. And the less stress you put on this area, the better. So if it's secure, and your cowl fits without any rub, which mine does, we're in good shape. I've tested our 4016 T500 to make sure it spins in proper rotation. And again, if it doesn't, just switch 2 wires. We're going to mount our cowl now. Take 2 pieces of tape, masking tape, that in the top of the cowl. You want that nice and flat, no bubbles. One right on top of the other. By doing this, we're going to set a proper gap for our canopy. I'm going to check our canopy. I'm going to check our cowl to make sure they fit. They feel real good together. Everything looks nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take either 4 pieces of regular tape or this thick tape. You can just split it down the middle. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to just stick that on the side here and mark with a pen. I'm going to have a pen. Pen. Okay. And we're going to mark with a pen the center of where we're going to want to drill our hole. Right in the center of that. And do the same thing on the other side. Now, I'm going to peel that tape back just a little bit and I'm going to fit the cowl. Now the best way to do this is with our spinner. I like to just place it against there to make sure you're setting yourself up for a proper fit. I'm going to pull that tape back just a little bit. And we're going to fit our cowl properly. Check your back spacing with your spinner. Oh, I'm still a little too tight. Good. Look it over. Check your back space. It's a little bit closer than I would like. You get one chance to do this. So make sure you set it up to your satisfaction. You're the guy who's going to have to look at it. exactly where you want it, which I have. You see, I fit mine with a nice gap, a little bit of a space for flex, and I've kept the line according to the spinner and the cowl in the front, along with on the bottom. Okay. Now, you're going to need a drill and a drill bit. For this, I use a 1/16 inch drill. Probably the smallest drill in your kit. Now, place your tape back over the cowl, and this will assure not only to keep your cowl in place, but show you right where to drill the hole. Okay, so usually start that one. I like to drill the hole and then install the screw. Now, keep in mind that earlier, this is one of the points that you want to hit with thin CA, the piece of wood there. When I was going over and prepping everything, I put a drop of CA on those spots. That way, when you screw into it like that, you have no issue. It's going to get nice and tight. Now what I like to do is at this point, I get a look at it, I make sure we haven't lost our line by tightening down that one screw. We haven't. So, on the other side, I'll drill the bottom one. Move the tape, install one of the longer self-tapping screws. By doing a screw on the upper right and then a screw on the bottom left, again, we're trying to keep our alignment. If we did both screws on the right side, the whole cowl could cock a little bit. We're going to go back to this side, drill our hole, move the tape, install the screw. Snug it up. We have one more to do on the other side. Before I do that, I'll show you, after removing the tape from your canopy, you'll be assured a nice proper fit where it drops right on. That's it. Okay, you've seen how to install the motor speed controller and cowl on your new Extreme Flight 60-inch Extra EXP. All we have left to do with this airframe is to install our servos. And we're going to do that all in one sitting tomorrow. And we're going to do the balance, install some decals, and we'll be ready for maiden flight on Sunday.